First of all, like, comment, and subscribe. Unless, of course, you don't want to like, comment, and subscribe, then feel free not to. This is Doug versus Ethan on Nick Rekieta. How this started? Well, how this partially started. Ethan sent a tweet where he asked if Earthworm Jim was anti-gay. I am really surprised that EVS would tweet this. To mess with someone's brand is insane. I feel EVS is in the wrong here. As Cecil, peace be upon him, says, never mess with someone's money. It shocked me that EVS would show such bad judgment, but EVS is definitely about the money. It kind of feels EVS sold out a bit. EVS attacked Mike Miller when Mike made his tweet during Gay Pride Month. Mike said, pride is a sin, which isn't a big deal. It's part of Mike's religion. We all know Mike is religious. It's just not a comment to get upset about. But EVS doesn't want any controversy associated with his brand. I think EVS is overstepping a bit here. In his defense, he said that since Mike was in financial trouble, it wasn't a good idea to make such controversial statements. To alienate your potential gay customers or needlessly antagonize people, fair enough. But Mike's statement was talking about pride, not the gays themselves. The gays. But then Doug got upset when Mike apologized for the tweet, because Doug thought it was an attack on Christians. I feel that EVS is trying a little too hard here to avoid controversy. EVS doesn't own or control Comicsgate. Whatever Mike or Doug says doesn't reflect on EVS. Oh, and for some reason, that EVS has a rainbow in his Twitter upsets Doug. I always thought that using the rainbow was just a way to troll the SJWs, using their symbols against them. Though I guess now that I think about it, the rainbow is a Christian symbol, or probably a Christian symbol before it was a gay symbol. And so was the color purple, oddly enough. It seems like the gays have kind of taken over the rainbow and the color purple. A little odd, kind of subversive if you think about it. EVS is trying too hard to control people, like he is trying to virtue signal to the SJWs. But it is pointless. The SJWs are never going to support Comicsgate. Watching the live stream now, EVS doesn't understand that asking, is Earthworm Jim anti-gay, hurts Doug's brand. I know the chat supports EVS, but I think they are both acting a bit immature. This whole thing should have been handled in a private phone call. If I'm being honest, even though Doug and EVS are millionaire artists, do I say this or do I skip it? I'll say it. Neither one of them is a rocket scientist. EVS is acting like a gatekeeper, telling Doug what Comicsgate is and isn't about. Comicsgate is somewhat unclear as a term. It means different things to different people. At its core, it's independent comics. This sort of ties in with the Tim Lim Bunny comic. Ethan said Comicsgate isn't about political parody comics, but EVS doesn't get to make these decisions. Comicsgate is indie guys who are sick of SJW ideology and mainstream comics. If Tim wants to do a Trump parody, I don't see what the problem is. Buy it or not, it's just not an issue. For some reason, Ethan seemed to have a problem with IndieCron. He doesn't think it's necessary. But why does he care? It feels like EVS is trying to control Comicsgate, but he isn't the leader of Comicsgate. Comicsgate is just a group of people with similar interests. We aren't following a leader, we are all following an idea. We are just sick of SJW propaganda comics. EVS needs to lighten up a bit, and let fellow Comicsgaters alone to do their own thing. To see all these different factions is crazy. There's EVS, Doug, War Campaign, Mike Miller, Nasser, Edwin Boyette, Yellow Flash, Tug, and they all seem to be sniping at each other. And then there is a good number of people who have left Comicsgate behind. They just got fed up with the whole thing. The positive side is that people are branching out instead of just being Ethan's satellites. They are doing their own shows and growing the audience, and the books are doing pretty well. Both Doug and EVS have campaigns over $750,000, I think, and there are a few $100,000 campaigns and many over $10,000. Comicsgate is the ultimate lesson in crowdfunding. I think Heather Antos was selling classes for $500 on how to crowdfund, which is funny because I don't think she has crowdfunded any comics, but someone correct me if I'm wrong there. And everyone in Comicsgate knows how to crowdfund. Start a social media channel, be entertaining, talk about stuff that is interesting to you and in pop culture. Do some live streams and invite some characters on. Build up an audience. After a year, you may be ready to sell your product. And of course, try to ignore any gay ops. I think much of this cancer that is invading Comicsgate is due to Twitter. Yeah, boy Zach was very wise to get off Twitter. It doesn't add enough to sales to be worth the time it wastes. Yes, it's fun to trigger and point out the hypocrisy of racist and sexist liberals. But next thing you know, you have spent 2 hours on Twitter or more. There are people like Renfamous who spend more time than that on Twitter. It's an addiction for them. Looking this over now, I realize I sound a little bit harsh on EVS. So we have to cut him a lot of slack because EVS helps a lot of people. Even after he and Douglas Ernst got into a little bit of a tiff, EVS had Ernst on twice to help him sell Soulfinder. EVS did an 8-hour show that helped Doug raise $40,000. And this is kind of, part of the thing that started all this is EVS has really helped Doug Tennapel out. And I remember when, Doug thanked EVS in his book, and Doug was on a live stream, and he was thanking EVS for inspiring him and getting him into Comicsgate and getting a lot of other people in Comicsgate, and EVS had to turn off his camera because he was crying. It was a sweet, sweet moment. And EVS did that 8-hour live stream, helped Doug raise $40,000, got his campaign to, I think, $200,000. But none of this would have been possible without Comicsgate, without EVS, without your boy, without Captain Cummings. Comicsgate had a huge hand in this, and Ethan's show is the flagship show right now, though a bunch of other shows are slowly catching up. The Jack show, I think, is phenomenal, and to me is even more interesting than EVS's show. To see Anna, that Star Wars girl, Cecil, John Malin, and Kelsey Shannon, these four people have a great chemistry together. They are really, really funny. Occasionally, the best show I ever saw was when EVS and your boy Zach went on the show, because Zach and Cecil have a killer chemistry together. They are really, really funny, and I would love to see more Cecil and Zach. And that was those six people: Anna, Kelsey, John Malin, Cecil, Zach, and EVS are really, those, I think there was six people. They had great chemistry together. They were just flowing. The stream was like 5 hours long. And Zach is such an interesting character because he's so knowledgeable about the comic book industry. So is Cecil. All of them are knowledgeable about the comic book industry. Anyway, my point is that EVS helps a lot of people. He goes on small creators shows. He'll jump in on streams if you're doing a live stream, and even if you're a small creator, I routinely see him and a lot of other people, bigger names of comic book shows will jump on smaller creators shows. So I gotta thank EVS for helping so many people, especially helping Doug Tennapel. And then Doug didn't thank him at the awards, and that's just, I think about that. Every time I think about that, I heard Doug's excuse was, he said, well, hey, I got up there. So he said something like, I got up there, I got nervous. You don't know what it's like. Public speaking is a whole different thing. But, if I was doing an awards show, I would have a little 3x5 card piece of paper with a list of people to thank. And EVS would be the first name on the list, even though, it's not politically correct to thank Ethan, but he's the one who made a lot of this possible. So, I would just sincerely thank EVS. Okay, so Doug said he forgot. He got nervous. All right, fine, take him at his word. The thing to do is as soon as you realize your mistake, you get on Twitter, you do a live stream, whatever you have to do. You say, hey, sorry, Ethan, I'm sorry. I didn't thank you. I was nervous. It just blipped out of my mind. I completely apologize. You and Comicsgate and the rest of the crowd have helped me tremendously. You know what I'm saying? Make it right. Make it right is all. So that legitimately hurt EVS's feelings. And then they started going back and forth on Twitter, and Twitter is just cancer, man. It doesn't help. But my God, he did an 8-hour live stream for Doug, and then Doug seems to think that Comicsgate hasn't helped him. Yeah, it has. It has. It's just insane to not. Anyway, so EVS even donated to and helped raise money for a comic artist who's having financial trouble. EVS also started the No Kid Hungry campaign. He raised $6,000 for kids in need. He also started and donated GoFundMes for your boy and Jeremy from the Quartering. EVS has helped dozens of small creators achieve their dreams of publishing a comic book. EVS can be a little bit of a prima donna, but I cut him a lot of slack because he has helped so many small creators. He'll bring people on the show a couple of times, even when they're not that great on live streams. He'll bring you on more than once, give you a couple of opportunities. He doesn't want to carry the show alone, but he helps people even when they're not, they're kind of a pain in the ass. He will still continue to help people. Well, Diversity in Comics got the ball rolling. Then he got tied up in his lawsuit against that fat millionaire douchebag, Mark Waid. So EVS picked up the slack and created an amazing show that had a hand in helping dozens of creators raise over $2 million. So I have a ton of respect for Ethan and what he has done to help the Comicsgate community. So if EVS has a bit of an ego, so what? Both Doug and EVS have egos, but there is no need to put those egos on display. Keep the dissension to private phone calls. The problem is that controversy gets eyeballs and super chats. So how much of this is genuine and how much is Ethan pouring gas on a fire for those sweet super chats? I don't know. Drama makes money. But while Comicsgate is having some growing pains, Comicsgate isn't going anywhere. Marvel and DC are such absolute trash that they have given rise to the alt comic book industry of Comicsgate. Really, we should be thanking Gail Simone and Mark Waid and the rest of those idiots. If it wasn't for these far-left propaganda machines, we wouldn't have Captain Cummings, who inspired your boy, Diversity in Comics, who inspired EVS, John Malin, Mike Miller, Kelsey Shannon, Nasser Rabadi, and dozens of other creators. So thank you, Marvel and DC, for being a trash fire. I guess if you really go back to 2015, you have to thank Trump for giving these 50-year-old children Trump derangement syndrome. And of course, CNN and MSNBC for giving Trump the billions in free publicity that made Trump winning a possibility. And really, the only reason Trump was palatable was because Hillary Clinton was such a reprehensible candidate. So thank you, almost Madam President Clinton. Please don't Epstein me. I would have voted for you if you weren't a lizard person. Anyway, let's stop the public bickering and start acting like adults. Can't we just go back to making fun of Renfamous and the other SJWs? Okay, like, comment, sub, and I will see you guys next episode. And you can watch the live stream, the Nick Rekieta show. It's the last show he did last night. Check it out. I was disappointed in both of them. They were dropping F-bombs, and I think EVS called Doug stupid, and you should never ad hominem an argument, a discussion between two people, and, just keep the discussion civil. Raise your points, rebut points, cross-examine people if you have to, but just keep it civil, because, you're both 50-year-old adults. This isn't, they tried, but they're both really, really heated, and I don't understand what Doug Tennapel is thinking. He made 2 points. EVS said, well, what are you mad about? And Doug went off about the rainbow flag for some reason. I didn't get it. I just don't understand what Doug is going through. I just don't get it. I don't understand how you can not be grateful to EVS for helping you out. But again, we don't have to choose sides. Listen to Doug Tennapel, listen to War Campaign, listen to EVS, listen to whoever you want. Listen to Big Steve, one word on YouTube. He does those late night live streams that are a lot of fun. We don't have to choose sides. We can listen to everybody. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys.